make sure that we are always capable of bringing you Indiana politics from the left side of things. Thank you for joining us this evening. Hey, it has been an amazing week. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who came out last night to the Stonewall appreciation for our elected officials in our State House. Now look, let's keep it real. It was an appreciation for our Democrat elected officials because they are working in a supermajority. They are working against, they are pushing a really heavy boulder uphill, having to fix and stop and, cause some good trouble as we have learned to do over the years. So that's what that appreciation was, because from a Stonewall perspective, last year when that hate crimes legislation came through our State House, it was not comprehensive. It did not include everybody. It was trying to eliminate some of our letters. And I know y'all don't like our alphabet soup. We don't really care. But our alphabet soup is important to us, and we want to make sure that everyone who fits in our community is protected. And unfortunately, the folks on the other side aren't all that interested in making sure that every Hoosier, every tax-paying Hoosier is treated with the same level of respect. But every Democrat in the House and Senate stood with us in solidarity. They asked the right questions, and they were down for making sure that they were supporting us the right way. We only have one elected LGBTQ plus member of our General Assembly, and of course that is Senator J.D. Ford. So that means that everybody else was being an amazing ally and standing up for us. And so that is why we had that appreciation. So thank you everyone who came out to support that. It was a great event. I mean, we had a blast at Loft Millers. You'll see some more stuff from Stonewall and the party and all that good stuff. In fact, I have great news, and I'll share it with you as we go along, but the Latino Caucus of Allen County is putting together a Power of the Latino Vote. I am really, really excited about going back up to Fort Wayne and talking to the community and making sure they understand that the Democrats, we care about them. We care about every community. And we don't want you to stop identifying your specific uniquenesses that make you amazing. We don't want you to do that. We want you to tell us everything that makes you unique. And we're not going to treat you differently because of it. So, guys, look for more stuff. But as I talk about how our supermajority has to fight every day in that General Assembly to make sure that every Hoosier is protected, this week is a prime example of that. The Indianapolis City County Council, along with the mayor, passed and signed an ordinance that would protect tenants. It gave tenants a little bit more oomph when it comes to landlords who aren't necessarily being on the up and up. You know them slumlords, you know those people. Don't get me wrong, we're not saying that every landlord or every person that is a renter is a bad landlord, but there are some awful folk out there. And this ordinance would have been a way to wrap a blanket around those who were being mistreated. But as soon as that ordinance was introduced, the supermajority at our State House decided, oh no. Municipalities, local government, y'all going just a little bit too far. And they threw an amendment in SB 340 that actually took away those protections. Now, first of all, when I was telling the history maker over here about this, and we were talking about this a minute ago, the first thing that came out of her mouth was, what about local control? Can you imagine? Oh wait, it did actually happen. Remember when the federal government was attempting to, pass affordable health care with the ACA, and the state of Indiana said, oh, no, you will not push that thing down to our state. We have states' rights. You will not impose on us something that we may or may not want for our communities. Nay, we say. Remember when they did that? Well, here now they are pushing down to city county councils and to councils and county councils all over our state saying, nah, we're not really finna let you do that. See, y'all, here's the real talk. There was already a bill out there that would reduce the number of days that landlords had to evict someone. The original day was like 10 days, and they were trying to reduce it down to 3 days. Now, I don't know about you, but I had found myself in financial situations before and like, oh my God, what am I going to do? 3 days is not an adequate amount of time to try to shore up your finances, especially if you're already in trouble. If you're already in trouble, what does 3 days give you? See, what folks want to do is make it easier to create greater homelessness and greater poverty and greater poor living conditions, because they want to say that Landlords should be able to do whatever they want to their tenants no matter what. I'm sorry, people. It's time that we have elected officials in our state house that actually give a damn about the citizens of this state, the tax-paying citizens of this state. This is why we have this show called Turn Left, because we want to make sure that we are bringing you the information to get you motivated and galvanize you to get involved in this thing we call citizen government. See, these folks, they work for us. But if we don't flex our muscle, if we don't raise our voices to issues like tenants' rights, come on. Not everybody is a homeowner. Come on. There are a lot of individuals who are young, who are just starting out. They're single mothers. They're married couples. They're working 2 and 3 jobs. Things freaking happen. And the idea that we cannot wrap protections around folks who are struggling already is a crime. It's a crime. And to our Democrats in the State House, I know y'all working really hard. I'm really nervous about this particular amendment because even though our city council and our mayor passed and signed this ordinance, the state can come in and say, nah, dog, we not going to let that happen. And see, I know a lot of people focus a lot of your energy on that presidential campaign primary race. I get it. I understand how important it is because I see what it's like when we have a really, really bad commander-in-chief. I even hate calling him that because he's not a commander and he ain't a chief. He's a little petulant child. But so I understand the importance of that. But if you do not recognize the importance of states' rights and the things that are happening in our state house and how they can positively or negatively impact your local communities, I don't know how else to emphasize this. I get the importance of the presidential race, but check this out. Dr. Woody Myers is the only Democrat right now who is running for the governor of the state of Indiana. That's where one of the places we can start. We can make sure that we are supporting Dr. Woody Myers as he makes this run for governor of the state of Indiana. Make sure that we put a Democrat in office, because here's what's important about that. The governor will then choose the superintendent of education. Come on, how much more do we need to talk about when it comes to taking care of public education, making sure our teachers are covered, all of that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't have anyone to support right now, consider helping out our governor's race with Dr. Woody Myers, but please, please, please understand, flipping that supermajority in our House and our Senate is just as crucially important. If you are in a safe district, because it happens, gerrymandering was set up so that, some people get to have, an easy win. So there are some Democrats who are in safe districts. But if you know somebody that is running in a 50-50 district, or even, a 55-45 district, give them some help. Give them an opportunity to succeed. We've got to make sure that we break this supermajority, because right now, Democrats don't even have to show up to work, and Republicans can pass whatever the hell they want. And they've been doing that with impunity. Y'all, what's happening in 2020 is way too important for us to just be singularly focused on what's coming on the national radar. There's a lot of stuff happening in Indiana, and it's obvious. It is quite obvious the Republican supermajority is not, has not, will not be interested in everyday working Hoosiers who are not contributing, tens of thousands of dollars to their campaign. So, y'all, 2020 is too important. Y'all need to wake up, understand what's happening, because we all find ourselves homeless. Nobody will be paying any property taxes or anything like that. So, let's get focused, y'all. This is Real Talk. So, y'all, real talk, we got a history maker. Yo, Indiana, listen, don't tell me what we can't do in this state. Don't tell me who can't get elected and who cannot win. I don't ever want to hear that ever again. Because I'm telling you, and we elected two gay mayors in Indiana this year, in 19. We elected 3 more LGBT, my tongue, I'm so excited, I can't even get my tongue acting right. We elected 3 more LGBTQ plus folk to our Marion County City County Council. But more importantly, y'all, in Indiana, as they want to call it, Mike Pence's Indiana, I'm not calling it that. Because I'm Indiana's own. I think I'm more representative of Indiana than any of them white-haired Pence boys. Y'all, from rural Indiana. It ain't lost on me. It ain't lost on me. Y'all, welcome to the show. Indiana's first ever trans elected official in the state of Indiana. Y'all give it up for Veronica. Pejril. Yo, welcome,
Thank you.
Veronica.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for uplifting me.
Okay, see, I'm groupie. You know me. Y'all know I'm a political groupie. I'm gonna calm down in just a minute. I'm just gonna calm down just a minute. Welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I tell you what. But let's just jump ahead real quick.
Sure.
And talk about that night. Talk about that night when the numbers started rolling in, and you said, "I can win this thing."
Well,
in Greencastle.
Yeah. Well, you know, when you're running for one ward of a city of 10,000, numbers don't roll in. They get tabulated back in the county clerk's office, and then somebody goes up to this huge 12-foot tall whiteboard in the center of the courthouse and writes it in Sharpie on the board. and so that they didn't, you know, they don't show you any numbers until they're complete.
Okay.
So
Ooh, that had to be nerve-wracking.
So when they but they read it off verbally before they do the writing, and when the numbers came out that my total was more than twice as that of my opponent, it wasn't just me that was breathing a sigh of relief. There was a big collective sigh of relief in the room, and not just a partisan one either. We had quite a coalition of support in the room that evening, and so it was very much a relief for so many of us.
I mean, and I'm telling you, I didn't go to any of the watch parties that night because I wanted to kind of stay home and watch the numbers roll in from all over the state. Right? And I knew if I hadn't gone to a party, I'd have been, my ADD kicks in. I wouldn't have been able to pay attention. And so when I kept seeing the numbers and seeing how we were winning all over our state, I was just so excited. And I knew that they had called it for you, but it hadn't really been announced yet. And I wanted to put it out there, and I really couldn't. Trust me, those of us in the LGBTQ plus community, especially our Stonewall Democrats, we could not be prouder, of the campaign you ran.
Thank you.
And how wonderfully constructed it was. Making sure you had people in the right places, but your win. Your win, we could not, I remember J.D. Ford night, so it was just that exciting. So.
We have our own J.D. in Putnam County too. I want to uplift J.D. Grove, who was my campaign chair.
Excellent.
And she did a fantastic job of helping coordinate and providing space for us in her store on our courthouse square for staging out our teams of canvassers who went out into our community to go knock on doors, and the first question we would always ask of our citizens is, do you think our community is as neighborly as it could be?
Oh, nice. I like that one.
And
write that down, y'all.
Yeah.
Is it as neighborly as it could be? Come on.
And we the message on my campaign yard signs, of which I was worried, maybe I bought too many when I got 100 of them. We ran out about a week before the election, and I had to start telling people no, I had to steal some signs to get them in front of the courthouse on election day. But the signs themselves, the slogan on it is "Good neighbors make great neighborhoods."
Nice.
That really all boils down to the whole golden rule thing, which transcends religions. It's found in scripture, of course. It's found in the Quran. It's found in the Bhagavad Gita. It's found.
You better speak that Bhagavad Gita. But I don't even know if I said that right. Please don't get mad at me.
I'm not sure I said it right either. But it's Hindu text. But the fact of the matter is that this is an ethical principle, a moral principle that transcends our. So when like your upcoming campaign, my campaign last year was for a seat that was left open by an incumbent who wasn't running again. So both of the people who were running were vying for an office that was new. My opponent had previously run for mayor in Greencastle and unsuccessfully, but narrowly, narrowing laws, mind you.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I'm kept a quiet, loving campaign, but I think it's important too to know your opponent well, know your audience well, know your community well, and so when I go out on Facebook and do a quick glance of my opponent's public Facebook posts back in January last year. I mean, I'm talking over a year ago, and I start seeing, you know, his rants about, shutting down mosques and banning Islam in our country. This is not a unifying message that a candidate of any party ought to be espousing. I mean, people are entitled to their beliefs, and I'm not going to suffer you for doing so. But if you're going to run for public office, that's a whole nother matter entirely. And in Greencastle's Third Ward in particular, you know, DePaul University spans a little bit over into the Third Ward, and our Center for Spiritual Life on the campus actually rests in our Third Ward, and our imam on campus holds Friday prayer in our Third Ward, and those are voters too.
Absolutely.
And those folks need to feel welcome in our community, and so when word got out, it went national briefly. CARE, the Council for American Islamic Relations, a big lobby in Washington, D.C. got word of it. The Indiana Islamic Council got word of it. You know, there was I think Zodi made a call to Holcomb to say something about it. It didn't happen.
Of course not.
But I'm delighted that our community rallied around a message of love and unity and good neighborliness, despite our differances.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, I may be different from you, but we can be neighbors, and so, you know, oh God, you know, now his name is slipping my
That's all right.
memory.
That's all right.
But you know, famous activist from the 20th century, you know, talked about how not to, you know, we can love each other so long as our differences don't rest on you.
James Baldwin, you think?
About denying my right to exist, right?
James Baldwin.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's something I hold close to my heart. As far as campaign strategies are concerned, you can take notes here if you'd like. I've always had a couple of edicts in my life whenever I do anything that has an impact on the world around me, in particular, whether that be my children or whether that be my church community or my work community. And one of those edicts is, before I do anything big, I ask myself, what good can come from this? And that always, asking that question always helps me resist the temptation to knee-jerk into a moment of hate. And that's a hard thing to do sometimes, right? But that's one that I really held closely throughout the entire campaign, and I think that it was a good thing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So before we go too much further, I want to make sure that we introduce my second guest. Y'all, the 5th district is crowded, baby, but we are so blessed that we have so many amazing Democrats who are running for that vacant seat in the 5th district. First of all, I met this young lady 2 years ago when she ran, and I probably told this a gazillion times, so you have to forgive me. She went through the slating process, and as a good team player, once the slating didn't work out for her, she stepped away like it was asked. But when it was all said and done, I'm certain I wasn't the only one, but I looked at her, I said, don't go away. Please stay connected with us as Democrats. Your voice is powerful. Do not go away. And what I noticed over the next 2 years was she's here, she's there, she's everywhere, she's engaging more in the community, she's doing more community service work. Whereas she may have been doing all those things before, but I didn't know her then, right? She came on my radar when she decided to run for office. She did not go away. In fact, she was a huge supporter of Dee Thornton, who was our candidate for the 5th District. Y'all, give it up for a returning candidate. This is her first visit on turn left, but she didn't give up, because it's in our ladies' nature not to kind of give up. Y'all give it up for candidate for the 5th District, Jennifer Christie. Welcome to Turn Left, Jennifer.
Thank you. Yeah, when I commit, I do not quit.
That's what, hey, when I commit, I do not quit. I like that.
True.
I like that. You've been hanging out with Muhammad Ali, I think. Welcome to the show. Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Thank you. Well, I've lived in the 5th District now for a long time,
Okay,
over 25 years, and I'm a mom. I have 4 young children, and they are my inspiration for running. We have talked about some really important issues today, and my campaign is about lifting everyone up, because I know that kitchen table struggle every day. And so I come with that perspective, wanting to lift everyone up. And so I'm running on a few key issues.
Okay.
My background's a little different than some, but I'm a professional. Yeah, we need some different perspectives. I think that's really important. I'm a scientist, so I spent over 25 years in science, yeah.
Oh my God.
We need
a scientist going to Washington. Oh my.
I hear that a lot, and that is because
I faint. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, we have seen, kind of an attack on science.
Right.
We really have.
For people who can't even spell science.
And that is a voice that is much needed right now, because we have some issues that need to be solved with the science.
No, really? How about that little coronavirus? And listen, every time I hear coronavirus, I think people are thinking, oh, is this something that's going to happen to me if I drink too much beer? That's everything. That's all. I'm going to need them to come up with something a little bit more scary, but go ahead.
Yeah, very important. So I stepped up because I didn't see the leadership that we needed on critical issues like climate action. We have 5 or 6 years to get legislation in place to save the planet. I'm not kidding. I'm running to save the planet. If you take a look at my website, we do have a climate agenda. I have been involved in this issue my whole life around the environment, and it's critical that we take real action. This year alone, for example, we have seen only one bill go through the House, and that was the Climate Action Now bill. It's not a bad bill, but all it says is that the president will prepare a report. Well, that doesn't do anything to take carbon out of the atmosphere. Right. And I don't know about you, but I'm really concerned about this. Is some serious stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, the existence of our species is at stake here.
No, because see, rich people believe that they will have their spaceship to Mars ready to go, and all the rest of y'all just be here down here. But the rich people going to Mars. You know that, right? Because they got they what is it, the space thing? What the Space Force?
Yes.
Yeah, man, look, come on now. So okay, real talk.
Yeah.
Both of y'all are teachers.
Yeah.
Talk to the people about what you're seeing. You're on the higher learning end, where we've seen tax dollars taken out of public higher learning educations, and the tuition prices and costs have gone up because those funds are not there. You're seeing at the public school level how our public school education is just like, they want to privatize that. Talk to me, because we're getting it from everywhere, right? It's interesting how y'all are crossing, like anyway, my brain, sorry. Talk to me about where we are with public education and how we need to really address these things seriously.
Well, I actually think that this is a critical thing that we need to be investing in. We need to be investing more and more into education, and because we need innovation, and that needs to go into our public schools, into our public universities. I'm a big proponent of the College for All plan. I think it's a very fine thing to tax Wall Street on speculative trading, to be able to give everyone the right to go to college. I know I went to college, paid my way through, working 2 and 3 jobs, graduated with honors, but I was tired. I mean, it was hard, really hard, and came out with debt and had to pay all that off. Imagine.
You actually paid yours off?
I did, but it took a long time. A long time. And so, imagine what we would be if we invested in education. Imagine if everyone did that. Imagine if everyone had a guarantee of trade school, higher education of their choice, where would we be as a nation? We need that kind of innovation to solve these really tough challenges like climate change. Same thing with healthcare. You know, we have this burden that goes on the families. I feel this burden every day about affordable healthcare, about being able to, you know, we have 50% of our people live in paycheck to paycheck. Almost all of us are one disaster away from losing our homes.
Absolutely.
I have a mother who lost her life to cancer, and she worked her whole life as a nurse, taking care of sick people. And when she got sick, the very first thing that happened was the insurance companies dropped her, and she had to fight cancer with no insurance and almost lost her home. I know what that is like. And so we need to guarantee that to people as a human right. And imagine where we would be if that were lifted off the shoulders of every man, woman, and child.
Yeah.
Because now you're in a new place.
Now your brain is thinking about innovation and entrepreneurship, not just basic survival.
Yes.
You know, and that's the part I think a lot of folks who have been handed things don't have to think about. There's a lot of ingenuity and a lot of creativity in people, but it's stifled because I don't know if I can take this risk.
Oh.
I can't take this risk because I gotta have insurance.
Yeah.
Imagine how much innovation could be happening in our world today if people could create startups and not have to worry about the fact that the insurance industry is stifling innovation in our country in this way. So I'm right there with you. You know, you said you're a mom of 4 young ones. I'm a parent of 2 twins. Who turned 26 years old this year, which is for the parenting insurance life cycle. They're facing a cliff in 6 months, right? And my son Joe in particular just wrapped up a contract job and started a new one, but his old contract job didn't have the kind of insurance that he's able to enjoy now, and so these kinds of protections that our children are enjoying, hopefully, I'm praying that he's going to be able to maintain his current level of care.
I know we're going to keep going with this because I know I talked about education, but we got here on healthcare. I want to talk about this real quick because Azure, who is one of them Trump appointees for healthcare, blah, 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 was on the Hill today. And so we already know about the coronavirus. Well, first of all, problem number 1, Orange Dude said that it was all contained, it's locked down, you don't have to worry about nothing. Again, we need scientists elected to office as well. And then he decides to appoint Pence, you know, let's expand the HIV virus in Indiana as the person who's going to tackle the coronavirus. And then you have this guy saying, yeah, you know what? We have a vaccine, but we're not going to make sure that it's affordable for everyone to get. Now, real talk, we already know of a person who received the vaccine, was cured of the virus, and then caught it again. Okay, so please understand, if you do not make this vaccine affordable for everybody, it's never going to go away. How do we instill in people the importance of making sure that affordable health care just isn't about insurance companies, it's about life sustainability?
It's about people, and you know, from a standpoint of real talk here, maybe it's time that we had an actual doctor who was governor of the state of Indiana.
Well, what you know about it? I know a doctor that's running.
I do too. It is. It's about freedom, and it's about people, and about putting our priorities in the right place, because it does give people freedom when you are able to give health care. We pay more than any other country in the world for health care, and it is up thousands of percent. I mean, you look at just insulin alone as an example. People ration their insulin because they can't afford. I have a relative who recently had a stroke. She's learning to walk and talk again. Her insurance is over $500, or her insulin is over $500 a month. Jeez. Now, if you're not able to walk and talk like you used to, it's tough to work. Now, these are human rights. These are human rights, and why it is that we pay thousands of times more sometimes for a procedure or a subscription
Subscription,
is because it doesn't actually cost that.
No.
And
then our
there's
tax
extreme
dollars-
profiteering going on.
Yeah, and our tax dollars actually contribute to the research and development of
exactly
these
right.
vaccines and
Yes.
all these procedures because they're receiving grants, whatever.
That is
And so
exactly
we're
right.
paying twice and then twice as much as what other nations are paying for our innovation.
It is exactly right.
And it's astonishing to me. People are always talking about. I remember when gay marriage was front and center, and folks were running around talking about our country is gonna pay for us allowing gay folk to get married. And my standard comeback to right. My standard comeback was, well, if our country hasn't actually paid for the Trail of Tears yet, if our country hasn't paid for Japanese internment camps, if our country hasn't paid for 400 years of chattel slavery, then us gay folk getting married is the least of our worries, right? That was my saying. But now I want to say this: if we're ever going to pay for anything, the fact that we are not taking care of the least of us,
Yes.
that's what we're going to pay for.
Yes.
Because I don't know what holy scripture anyone has read that says you do not take care of those that need the help.
That is
You
right.
you don't get. So the idea that these people are standing up screaming, because there was a guy on the other day talking about, coronavirus is going to wipe out all the gay people. They pop up every year. I didn't know, I didn't know we were that powerful, my man. I mean, it's like, dog, we are so powerful. We make hurricanes happen. We make tornadoes happen. Gay folk are just, y'all might as well just call us omnipotent. But we're not. So when we talk about what is, I know we can't legislate morality, but I don't understand how some folk who are now elected officials can scream and holler about the love and the sanctity of God and blah, 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 but are turning their backs on the sick. Jesus never did that. Jesus healed the sick. He didn't turn his back on the sinners. He was hanging out with them like, yo, let me holler at you for a minute.
Jesus didn't have a copay when he healed.
Jesus did not have a copay. He didn't make you have a deductible nor an out-of-pocket expense.
A free gift.
Because he had the capability. And when we talk about insulin, wasn't that a gift? Wasn't that patent a gift?
It was a $1 patent,
Yeah.
and the technology to make that has improved so much that the cost of making it isn't very much. Changing the nation and the way that we lift people up, whether it's through health insurance or college for all, or a tax structure that actually works for people instead of having taxes that actually have billionaires paying their fair share of taxes. This is going to take us. The citizens of this nation are going to have to change things. It's up to us now because we are.
It's a citizen government for a reason.
Yes,
This is a
that
grand
is right.
experiment.
That is right.
This is a grand
We gotta
experiment.
step up. It'll be up to us.
Absolutely, and I know that again the debate on who comes out of our side of the primary is hot topic, and everybody's clawing at each other. But if you really listen to what they're all talking about, and I've had some issues with a couple of them, but if you listen to what all of them are talking about, they're all on the same side and just have a different way of trying to get there. So if we can just understand what is important to us as Democrats, and we do it with love and our love of humanity and our fellow citizen at heart, then there's no way we allow children to be in cages. There's no way that we allow law enforcement to run amok. Okay, I'm not saying all law. Listen, black folk like police too. We just don't want y'all to shoot us when we ain't doing nothing. That's all. Is that too much to ask for?
Not too much.
Not too much. So when we talk about 2020 and all of the issues that are really important, how you're already in the position of writing ordinances.
Mm-hmm.
How do you prioritize? Whew. Yeah, I know it. I gave you a big one there.
I've been in office less than 60 days, and most of the things that motions that we've had to pass so far have involved street closures and noise abatements. Okay. But we do have a budget coming up.
Yeah.
We do, and in our city in particular, each of the councilors does have a certain amount of money that they have at their disposal
Oh,
to devote to the community. So I think
Nice.
each of us has $7,000 or $9,000. It's an odd thousand up there.
okay.
That we can independently choose to
Okay,
affect our community. And that might be as simple as something like, okay, well, I want all those potholes on Avenue D to be sealed up, but I really want to hold true to my campaign promise about uplifting ways to bring our neighborhoods together, especially in a day of social media and
The disconnect.
the disconnect and toxic rage media on cable television that divides people apart and even divides us apart within our own party sometimes.
Come on.
It's super important that we get away from our screens and our tubes and we get out into the streets and
Yes.
learn who our neighbors are.
Yes.
It's important that we take time out and whether
And not be afraid of each other.
right and
Yeah.
and, your neighbor might look different than you, your neighbor might worship differently than you, your neighbor might have a different family kind of structure than you might, but in the end we can all have a block party and we can all enjoy an evening together.
See, bring out a card game and let's go.
Because once we realize that we're all neighbors
And we're all in this together.
yeah, we're all in this together,
'Cause
we're all living on the same planet and none of us have an option to get away, at least right now.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you guys live Hamilton County, which the 5th district actually has several counties, which the gerrymandering in this state is a head scratcher. It contains a huge portion of Metro Indy, which is and even on the north side of Indianapolis is pretty urban, right? It's not as suburban as people think it is, and it's definitely not rural, right? But then you have counties like Tipton, which are which is very, very rural.
And it has a new Democrat mayor.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
In
right.
Tipton, we elected a Democrat mayor. We talked about that. You guys remember I had Katie Doyle on and we was running it down. And then of course you have suburban, and I know that there's often that discussion of there seems to be a city rural or urban rural suburban divide. But when you're out campaigning in these communities, because you have to get the votes of all these folks, how are you shaping that conversation to address each space so that they know that they will be heard and be listened to?
Yeah, I think you need to meet people where they are, and I do a lot of listening. I think that's super important. The fact that I'm running on climate is really important too, because what I am finding is that is an issue that everyone cares about.
Okay.
I believe it is also an issue that will bring people together, because it is an issue that requires all of us to work on it together, and we need something like that a lot right now. First of all, it's a problem that we must solve. And secondly, it's a problem that will bring people together and create tens of millions of jobs in the process.
Come on.
So, come on, yeah.
And then we don't have people writing bills that say, no, you can't close that coal plant, even though the market is dictating that they need to close the coal plant. I don't understand these Republicans.
Interesting how we're all
Talking
free
about
market
both sides,
until,
it's like,
yeah.
It's free, And
That Soliday guy up in
can you-
Soho
y'all, can y'all believe it? Like, free market, get out of the way of free enterprise. But here you are as a Republican government, an elected official, talking about, no, even if it's not cost effective for you to shut down this coal plant,
Right.
even, it is cost effective for you to shut down this coal plant, you still can't do it without my permission. I don't understand how this is acceptable, even to, people who vote straight party on, elephants.
Well, I can tell you that I've been out doing a lot of door knocking, and I have gone to houses where there's a Republican and a Democrat in the household, and I have earned votes from Republicans who've committed to come out and help me because of the
Wow.
issues. I'm not kidding.
That means you
They
can look across
care
the aisle,
about They care about some of the same things. We are in this together. We care about the future of our planet. We care about healthcare. We all do. We all have kids we got to
Absolutely.
take care of. We care about education. And so I find when you do a lot of listening and you meet people wherever they are, that we all have we have the same needs.
Absolutely.
And so we are.
Because we're all humans.
We are. And we need to treat each
Jeez.
other. And I love how you ran your campaign.
Thank you.
I really do. And I actually have a similar way that we're running our campaign, and it is with kindness and courage together. We must be absolutely courageous on these issues. It is up to the people to do this, but we must be absolutely kind at the same time, because the stakes are too high. otherwise.
I find it almost painful at times when I see the lack of empathy and concern for our fellow humans. I mean, we actually last year we passed a bill to to protect. Not that I have anything against dogs. Please understand, I love dogs like everybody else. But we passed protections for dogs that exceed protection in our hate crimes legislation. It hurt. I mean, and maybe that's why I'm in this thing, and I am a bleeding heart liberal or whatever y'all want to call me. But I don't understand how other people don't feel that as well. And you don't have to be my cousin, my family member, my child, for me to feel that need to protect you and help you.
Yes.
Why? How do we tap into that emotion instead of that fear emotion?
I think we have to roll up our sleeves and work together. I think we have to have block parties together. We need to spend more time with each other, and that's how I see solving these big problems, is rolling up our sleeves and working together. People that are not alike. You know, one thing that we do at my church is we do a build for Habitat for Humanity, and we always do it. It's nice. We always do it interfaith, and that is such an important part of it, because then it just adds to the experience and adds to the growth that you get personally from it and doing something good. We need to start rolling up our sleeves and doing some hard work together. That's how I think you build the community and get some stuff done at the same time.
Anything that gets us out of the house and meeting our neighbors who we might have feared because of some label that somebody put upon us, right? You know, what I think we need to recognize, and I think maybe we're recognizing this at the municipal level more than the folks over in Washington might recognize, is that fear is our common enemy.
Yeah.
Fear is our common enemy, regardless of whether we're Republicans.
She's dropping dimes on turn left, y'all.
And it's just so important that if we stop fearing each other and work together, we can get so much done. We can create new vaccines. We can make sure that everybody's got an equal access to health care. We can uplift and provide a quality public education for everyone in our communities, rural and urban, that can make it possible for us to do great things and become great scientists.
Absolutely. And one of the things we talked about before the show was, how do you get past the divisive rhetoric? And that was something that I really wanted you, Veronica, to tap in on, because here we have a lot of candidates who are in primary races, and sometimes they can get a little steamy.
Yep.
We'll just call it that. But it is obvious that there was, your opponent was nasty. Like, as bad as Allie Brown's, opponent. Talk to us about how we as individuals can navigate that negativity and that rhetoric and still be focused on the goal ahead, and that is to bring unity and create policies that improve lives.
Right.
Well, fear saps our energy, and when fear manifests itself as hate, and people rage out at each other, like when my opponent, for example, dead named me on social media.
What a punk.
Again, I need to ask myself in that moment, what good can come from my response to it? And as things were progressing into the last few days of the campaign, the rhetoric got worse and worse on that side. I turned to humor at times. There was a moment there, just to recount one post that I put out there that had my birth certificate on it, without any of the personally identifying numbers on it that would have, but to signifying my legally recognized sex and So I made a little hat tip gesture to 2016 the birthers, and pointing out that we've got our own little birther conspiracy going on in Greencastle, Indiana. If we can make light of it, it can defuse the hate, it can defuse the fear, and it can unify us if we can laugh at ourselves, and if we
You just didn't take the bait, is what you're telling me.
I didn't take the
You didn't
bait.
take the bait.
You know, I don't know if you've heard of a book called The Four Agreements.
I have not.
Okay, you're nodding. You know, there's a couple of them that are super important. One of them is don't take things personally. It's like the four agreements to running a successful campaign. Use them as notes because they're going to be great. And one of the others is to be impeccable in your word.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
And if anything that I've learned, not only campaigning to become someone in public life, but now in these last 60 days or so as someone who is in public life, being impeccable with my word and honoring it is so very important.
Come on.
So,
Well, my mama told me a long time ago, all you have is your word.
right, it
That's
is true,
all you
but
have.
you know, I'm 56 years old and I keep learning it every day. I learn the value of that.
I'll be joining your club in just a few more months. That 50 club. I'm on my way, baby.
Yeah.
I got my
Discount.
application. I'm ready.
That
I'm
discount
ready.
is worth more than the price of admission.
Listen, people be like, oh, I cannot wait to get there because you save money on everything.
Yeah.
Come on, I work for the county. I don't make no money.
Yeah.
And Jennifer, and as you know, luckily I've been watching the 5th District, primary, and the civility of all the candidates is amazing. But real talk, we have three amazing women four women, right? Three women. Three women are running, and a young man who was raised by an amazing woman. So the level of integrity and genuine camaraderie that I've actually seen amongst the primary candidates has been great. Tell us, because a lot of people think all primaries are here. Tell us about that. How did you guys cultivate those positive relationships?
We have actually talked about those, and
y'all talked?
We're in the same party.
Look at that.
But I do think it is really important because at the end of the day, when this is done, we have to get some work done, and they're really important issues. I'm issues candidate, and this is all about getting the work done for people and raising people up and doing the right thing. And so I think everyone's in it for that. And so I think it's just about being the best person you can be. One of the only
being the best person you can be.
Yes, and the only prayer I have for my campaign is that for myself and for anyone I come into contact with, anyone on my team, any volunteer, is that we want to be better people after the campaign than we were when we started. Because it could go a different way if you don't treat people right?
Exactly.
So we want this process to be one that makes us better, because we need better. We need better in so many areas. And unfortunately, we are not seeing that in Washington. And this whole issue with the coronavirus is concerning to me, because we have someone who has attacked the media, so that there's a large portion of the population that doesn't believe the media anymore at a time when the media really needs to be believed.
Right.
And has also attacked the science, so that there are people who are skeptical about the real science. And this is a serious situation, just like climate action, just like a lot of these other things. We just don't have the luxury of having that kind of divisiveness. We've got to rise above it. We got to be the best person, just like you were in your campaign.
Absolutely.
The best person won.
Absolutely.
When divisiveness can bring us down, and that divisiveness tends to happen because of the fear and because of the hate. And I just wanted to uplift anybody who's watching this show here. Go back in Dana's feed. A great post. Originally from Indiana Business Journal, but you shared it on your Facebook page just a few hours ago as well. That touches on this point so vividly, that how important it is to.
It's painful. I don't know how much people have invested in competing and trying to compete to represent a community. I don't know how much they have invested. I have an awful lot invested. And I keep thinking to myself, and again, some days more than others, that we're going to get this right. We're going to understand that we can do more if we stop trying to use our differences the differences that we have amongst ourselves as ammunition.
Right.
And that's what I see happening. I mean, stop telling me you're colorblind. Damn it, I don't want you to be colorblind. That's insulting to me. That means that I'm not, you don't see me, you don't see my black, and you don't see the uniqueness of my blackness. Stop saying you don't see me as gay. That's my uniqueness. I just don't want you to treat me poorly because you recognize those things. And I think, again, it hurts. I mean, because I have so much invested, because I know that if we are focusing in on the right things, then I know that, we can make sure that hungry children are fed. I know that we can make sure, people who are struggling to get high-speed internet, because I'm sorry, if you're living in rural Indiana and you're trying to commute somewhere, or something as simple as, I'm able to log on to my doctor's website and see when my next appointment is, see when my prescriptions due, or reorder them. I can do all these things online. And I have a total of probably 15 hospitals that I can get to relatively easy. But if you're in a rural community where there is not a medical facility that can handle you, and you have to drive out of the county, and now you can't even get to them via the internet to get information, I mean, that is so stifling, to the growth and the care of each other. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm soapbox.
A healthcare for all system would help with that too.
Okay.
Because what it does is it returns that decision making back to the doctor and the patient.
Yep.
And it also gets rid of the network.
Absolutely.
And so you have the freedom, if you're a doctor and you want to work in a rural area in your hometown, you can do that. Because everybody's in the network.
Everybody's in the network.
Yep. So.
And the other thing that drives me crazy is when I hear them say, well, what will the people who work in the insurance industry do? Oh my gosh, well, hold on, dog. Remember the horse and buggy industry?
Rotary phones.
Rotary phone. Landline industry. The landline. Progress. Telegrams. Come on. Remember there was a messenger. There was a job for you to be a messenger and deliver a message. See, times change.
They do.
And the careers, my mother, oh my gosh, she's telling me this now. She's like, really? She got paid to push the buttons on an elevator. She was an elevator operator. Guess what? Those jobs went away. That happens.
One of the things that we hear so much as educators is that we're preparing today's children for jobs that don't exist yet, right? And I can speak truth to power that the job that I hold with my employer did not exist when I was in college.
Right.
And, I cobbled who I am and what I'm doing together out of not only that education, but a whole lot of other life experiences that have gotten me to this place. And so we need to keep in mind for, again, tomorrow's generation, especially when we keep a laser focus on those issues like climate change, and recognize how fragile it is, and the things we need to do now to bring things back into check, and the role that those future scientists can play.
Absolutely. And see, a part of science and as teachers, it is the ability to problem solve. And I think when we switch, I had this conversation this morning with a good friend of mine, and we were like, what is it with some people, you feel like you have to think for them. And we're not trying to be rude or mean. We know that they're capable. It's like they don't seem to go to the next step. And she said, Dana, we've stopped teaching young people how to problem solve because we're teaching them to regurgitate versus think critically and think outside the box. As teachers and educators, when we have all of these magnificent issues that we have to tackle, how are we supposed to focus that energy on teaching young folks how to problem solve?
Teachers have such a skill and a gift.
Of course, they're going to teach you how to shoot a gun, though. Gotta have that. Maybe that's the problem solving skills.
That is not a solution.
That is not a solution. But we have such a skill in teachers to inspire people and to bring out the innovator in each person, and yet we stifle that with, in my opinion, it's stifled by standardized testing.
Yeah.
I have yet to meet a teacher who's a big fan, and I think we need to free up our teachers to be the professionals
teachers?
that they are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we
Yes.
need to pay them commensurately.
Correct.
I speak, my family has a long history of public education. My mother was a public school math teacher for 25 years. Her mom was a public school math teacher for her career. When my son Frank chose to study math education at Purdue, it touched my family heart. And it was so wonderful to see, and he went up and taught high school math up in the region for 2 years.
Nice.
And he's had to decide to move on from the career.
Wow.
And it's not telling of my family. It's not telling of who Frank is. It's telling of where our municipalities and our property tax systems are engaged, our school boards, that the demands that are placed on teachers are outside of the bounds of the kind of pay that is available to them these days. And he's moved on to a more lucrative career at this point, and it's disappointing.
Yeah, and it comes back to, people creating laws and ordinances and things that are not people focused.
Right.
They're bottom line focused.
Right.
They're, and when we take our eye off of the human that we're affecting, then every human is going to suffer.
Yeah. And you mentioned problem solving, and when we solve problems, we create jobs by solving problems.
Invention is the mother of necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention. Y'all know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on.
Truly, and we have the biggest problem that humanity has ever seen. Climate change is imperative that we solve it, and we do not have all of the innovation that we need to solve it. We're going to create so many jobs doing this, and that's one example of an issue. There are many other issues.
Absolutely.
Solving problems is a job creator, so when we focus our priorities on doing the right thing, we benefit from that. That's what we did to get out of the depression. We put people to work, right?
Yep.
That's how we won the space race. We put people to work
Yeah.
to do it. And so think big, dream big, and work hard, because we can do anything.
And you know what? And I'm glad you brought up the space race, because I enjoy reading I enjoy reading the things that they omitted from my public education. Because I went to North Central and it was great, and I learned quite a few things, but there were also a lot of things that were omitted. And reading White Fragility, I think it was. Yeah. And they talked about the space race and how Brown v. Board of Education, people were so angry at the idea that little black boys and little white girls were going to go to school together. Now, mind you, the fear is unwarranted when you consider that most of the biracial children that came from the enslaved era came from white men raping black women, not from black men hanging out with white women. I'm just saying. Y'all ain't got to believe me. Look it up for yourself. But once the Brown v. Board of Education happened, entire school system shut down. And states were giving white families vouchers so that they could send their kids to these private schools, but for multiple years, black students did not have a place to become educated. Mind you, all of this was happening in the middle of the space race.
Right.
So now, you are now not educating our nation's greatest resource, which are other human beings. And it wasn't until 2014 that we actually graduated a doctor in astrophysics. Right. And it was like, how do we cut, as a nation sometimes we cut our nose off to spite our face, baby. And if we are not focusing in on teaching these young folks about problem solving, we won't have cures for the next pandemic. Right. We won't have create ordinances that creates the new asphalt that fills those potholes over on campus. We have to continue to cultivate minds so they think beyond what they see and what they're handed.
And knowledge is not a zero-sum game. It is something that there's always more. Yeah. There's enough for everyone.
Let's let lighting a torch.
It is share the torch, light everybody's torches.
Oh my God.
Because what will come of that? All good. to your question that you
Absolutely.
ask yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. We can only do better when we educate each other. And listen, y'all, I know the conversation may have seemed circular, but we talked about climate change, we talked about science, we talked about public education, we talked about teachers, we talked about the current event of coronavirus. On turn left, you never know what you might get. But that's what happens. We have amazing people on our side of the aisle continuing to introduce things and talk about issues that matter to everyday Hoosiers across the state. All right, Jennifer, our hour is up. So tell the people where they can find you.
All right, so you can find me online, jenniferforindiana.com. JenniferFor Indiana.com.
Okay, do you have any fundraisers coming up?
You know what? We are actually out canvassing. We're out doing
What are you canvassing?
every day.
And people can sign up to volunteer?
They sure can.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you go to my website, connect with the campaign, we actually have a system that you can sign up for the slot that works for you. You can do phone banking if you don't want to knock doors. You can do phone banking. You can write postcards. There is so much to do. And if you're passionate about a particular issue, we will dedicate a canvas for you on that issue.
Oh, that's great.
So we've dedicated to democracy, to climate action, to healthcare, to endangered species. We just recently did an art for animals, which was really fun, and we painted our favorite animal who was endangered, and we talked about the endangered species, what it's done for us, and the attacks that the Trump administration has put on that piece of legislation just as recently as August. It's in court right now.
Paying attention, baby.
Gotta pay attention.
Paying
It's
attention.
up to us, citizen government.
Miss Veronica,
Yeah.
you're set for the next 4 years, am I correct?
That is correct.
But if somebody has any concerns, especially if they come from your community, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, if you're on the web, you can always get to my campaign's Facebook page, which is now my candidate Facebook page. My last name is spelled P as in Peter, Ejril.
We tagged it, don't worry.
One of the great things about having a unique last name is that I was able to register as a .com 25 years ago, and so you go to Pejril.com and you'll find it.
And I was actually shocked that in 2015, I was able to get Indiana's own.
Ooh.
There you go.
I was shocked. I was like, it's available? Let's just get all of those.
Yeah.
You know. Y'all, thank y'all so much for gracing Turn Left. You know, this show brings my heart so much joy. Thank you for reaching out to me on a personal level about, y'all, the last 6 months ain't been no joke, baby. But you know what? I'm still here because, you know, I tell people all the time, the divine is preparing me for something,
Yes.
and I'm not exactly sure what it is, but the bottom line is I'm supposed to be a soldier out here making sure that I can elect and we can elect as many Democrats as we can to balance things out. I'm not looking for a takeover. I'm looking for balance because we have to be able to have conversations and different ideas and different ways of thinking. But a supermajority right now is killing us. It's literally killing us. I'm not saying that to be over-exaggerating or nothing like that, but it really is, and we've got to fix that. Y'all, Turn Left has got amazing guests coming on. All right, before I go, you know me, I got one last thing to talk about. The census, the light might be messing with y'all this time, but y'all know, go to 2020census.gov, there's /jobs. If you are bilingual, trilingual, quadruple lingual, please consider being a volunteer, no, not a volunteer, getting paid to canvass and be a census taker because, you know, everything that we talk about, funding and how education is funded and all that, you've heard me rant on this since November. Please, please, please consider signing up and becoming a census taker. And when the census person knocks on your door, please, please, please consider answering those questions. I know a lot of folks are afraid for multiple reasons because we already know that my buddy Vanessa Lopez Aguilera posted a New York Times report today that talked about how they were going to denaturalize naturalized citizens. So y'all, I basically what they're saying is that essentially, you know, if you were not, you know, a naturalized citizen, if you weren't born here, or you weren't born on the continent or whatever, then you're not really an American citizen, and we can take and strip that citizenship away from you. That's not cool. That's not cool on any level because a lot of times folks work 14 years or more to become a citizen. And I'm sorry, if they commit a crime, they are now a citizen and they deserve due process like everybody else. And we should not strip them of their citizenship. They should. It happens. You know what I'm saying? Do not strip people of their citizenship. But these are the things that we've got to fix. And the only way that we can stop this kind of nonsense is to get involved. Stop hating on each other. Stop tearing each other down. Let's lift each other up with love. It is too important for us to be like giving each other black eyes, because if everybody had black eyes, they will never be able to see. Come on now. We got work to do. Y'all, Turn Left, Indiana's own Dana Black, thank y'all so much for giving us an hour of your time on Thursdays. It is so important for us to share this information. If you like my girl Jennifer, hit her up, support her, find a way to volunteer, do whatever you can for her if her message speaks to you. We still got one more candidate coming on from that district. It's a tough one, baby. Woo, I'm glad I ain't got a vote in it. Veronica, the history maker. We're going to bring some more history makers. I'm going to find them all. I'm going to bring them all here. Thank you so much for coming to Indy and sharing your story, your success story, and showing us what winning in rural Indiana, no matter who you are, looks like.
This success is everyone's success.
Absolutely. I love it, y'all. All right, Indiana's own Dana Black. Turn left. Where's my mouse? Can't find it. Y'all, I will check. You see how I did that? I was like fishing around. You know, you be in a car. That's why I have two like different cases so I can feel which one it is. Anyway, Indiana's own Dana Black. Turn left. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We will catch y'all next week. The lineup is fast.